There's nothing you can do that can't be done. I think we're here to prove that. All right. So, welcome back to the third annual Registered Democrats Summit. This is 2025's version. It's our biggest event of the year. It's an all-day celebration of the resistance, the fight to save our democracy, and the partisan voter registration that is our special contribution. Thank you for joining us for the next panel this moment in time. Before the panel, we'll get to hear from Tania Johns and Lily Jackson of 1,000 Women Strong, DNC Chair Ken Martin, and Lee McGowan, also known as Politics Girl. Then it's on to our panel with media superstar Bryan Tyler Cohen in conversation with political strategist Simon Rosenberg. If you missed anything today for any reason, or you miss something that's happening between now and the end of the event, don't worry. We'll be turning it all of the content today into recordings and podcasts and posting them on our website in a few days so you can catch up in your own time. And here's an update on our fundraising. The event is free. The voter registration, it costs money. We have to buy data, we have to send texts, we have to send emails, we have an infrastructure, and that all costs money. And so let me give you an update on how close we are to our $25,000 goal for the day. And I'm just going to refresh the screen because I think some donations just came in. Yep. We are now up to 204 different individuals who have donated $17,396. So we're very, very close to our $25,000 goal, and I believe that we can make it. Amazing work. Okay, just a reminder, every $1,000 allows us to send 25,000 voter registration texts, and every donation helps. So please click the links in the chat as often as you can and send it to any friends or family who might be interested. Now, Tania Johns is the National Organizing Director, and Lily Jackson is the Chief Program Officer of 1,000 Women Strong, a nonprofit that cultivates the grassroots and political power of Black women and their allies. They have been a great partner to work with in all the work that we do, and I'm so grateful that they are here with us today. Tania and Lily.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. I'm proud to represent 1,000 Women Strong, a national organizing hub led by Black women and built for long-term political power. We are a movement grounded in a community and intentional about the importance of year-round organizing. That means training leaders, mobilizing voters, and making sure Black women are not just participating, but driving the political process. Because when Black women lead, we don't just change outcomes, we change what is possible. Our mission is to reclaim power for all Black women, to create the future they want to see. And that future is grounded in real policy outcomes, from maternal health to school funding, environmental justice to economic opportunity. Our North Star is lasting impact, not just at the ballot box, but in the halls of power and in the communities we serve. We've helped move bold ideas forward by lifting up local leadership and staying focused on deep, meaningful change, not just short-term wins. That work lives across 8 core states: Texas, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. In 2025, we're expanding our footprint, organizing in New Jersey and New York ahead of major local and statewide elections. These aren't just battlegrounds. They're communities where Black women are building power and shaping what's next. We're very proud of this work, and we're very proud to work alongside so many of you. Now that you've heard where we work and what drives us, my colleague Lily is going to walk you through how we bring the power directly to the people.
Thank you, Tania, and apologies for any background noise. Huge shout out to Field Team 6 for being our partner and helping make this possible. So our voter registration program is called From the Rolls to the Polls, a cute name to describe our vision of taking 500,000 unregistered Black women voters and guiding them through their voting experience. Using a 3-tier outreach approach of digital organizing, civic education, and direct voter contact, 1,000 Women Strong is committed to registering and mobilizing voters in our target states, ensuring that every Black woman we reach has the information and the support needed to cast their ballot. So as you see it broken down, our digital organizing and education, we make critical election information accessible and actionable through our online campaigns. And through that tactic, we reach 100% of our target. We also, 80% of the target will be reached, and this is layered approach, through direct voter contact. So through the traditional means of texting, phone banking, door knocking, just engaging voters one-on-one to ensure that they're informed. And then lastly is coalition engagement for 20%. So our partners are trusted sources in their communities, and we work together to amplify our efforts and expand our impact. So these are the target goals for this year, but just to give you all what we were able to accomplish last year, for a total, our goal targets were 502,864 and 464,895 texts were successfully received. And so we're looking forward to using the information and the data that we were able to collect through last year's cycle and doubling down our efforts this year. So you can see we have increased our goal by almost 80,000 or almost 90,000 really. But we've also added New York and New Jersey in there. Georgia is NA, just to explain, it's 0 because there are some established organizations in Georgia that have voter registration handled. So we want to use our energy where it should be. All right. And so I know you guys have a schedule, and congratulations on raising the money you've raised so far, and good luck raising the rest. If you would like to engage with us, you can donate. There's our Act Blue link. There's our volunteer QR code. We also host sister salons and house parties. If you or your friends or your community would like to get together, they can either be fundraising focused or organizing focus, where we can learn skills and tactics and how to organize in your community. So thank you very much for your time. Here are our emails, our contact information, if you have any questions. Again, thank you very much, Field Team 6, and we look forward to a continued partnership with you.
Thank you so much.
That's what I was going to say. Looking forward to the continued partnerships. Thank you so much, Tania, and thank you, Lily. And now, Ken Martin, the new chair of the DNC, is bringing a whole new vision to the party's work. Not only that, he made us a video about it. It's coming. Don't worry. It's coming.
Hello, Field Team 6. Ken Martin here, the chair of the Democratic National Committee. I want to start by saying hi and to congratulate you on all of the incredible work that you're doing to register Democrats across the country. What an amazing group you've brought together for your summit today. It's a true testament to everything that you're doing. I know that everyone joining today, and you've got quite the lineup, is here because they believe in the same mission. 30,000 volunteers, 25 million unregistered voters, all just last year. Now, as an organizer, let me just say this. Those are impressive numbers. You know, something I believe is that the future of the Democratic Party is about organizing everywhere. And that future starts right now. It starts with folks like each of you. Now, I've only been at this job for a few months, but I've sure learned something already. Everybody in DC wants to win the argument. Well, not me. I want to win elections. And elections aren't won in DC. They're won in the states. They're won in our cities and towns and counties. They're won by going door to door, neighbor to neighbor, person to person, by building direct relationships with voters and their communities, and by getting people registered. Now look, don't get me wrong. Last year was tough, but we've taken the gloves off. We've dusted ourselves off, and we've gotten back in the fight. And now, thanks to each of you, we're building momentum. Now, some people might not think every race matters. I'm not one of those people. From school boards and city council to state legislatures and Congress, every race up and down the ballot matters. Now, some people say this is an off year. I say there's no such thing as an off year anymore. Our party is standing up a permanent campaign. We're organizing everywhere. We're competing everywhere. And with folks like you rolling up your sleeves, we are winning everywhere. We're winning in Nebraska, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania. We're overperforming in places like Florida, and we're building real momentum. We're setting the tone for the midterms for 2028 and beyond. Now, each of you know all too well that we're in the fight of a lifetime. Donald Trump and his enablers are using their power not to help people, not to improve people's lives, but to inflict the maximum amount of harm. They're destroying the economy. They're ripping up the Constitution and creating a White House fueled by corruption. What I see right now from this administration and from the Republicans who control Congress is an attempt to wreak harm and havoc on Americans. Look, if one man, unchecked and enabled by others, can do this much damage in a mere 100-ish days, I hate to envision what he's capable of over the span of 4 years. So look, we need to work together. We need to be on the same page. We need to show our collective strength, especially because there are cracks in the veneer. The public tide is shifting against Trump. His approval ratings are underwater. People are pissed off. They're pessimistic and unhappy. We've hosted more than 100 town halls across nearly every state and in a lot of red districts. And guess what? We've heard from many voters who are ready to make a switch. They're ready to go blue, which means we all have to be ready to mobilize, organize, and register. Now, I know you're doing your part. Field Team 6, you are on the front lines of our democracy. And I truly appreciate everything you do to change communities, to change our country, and ultimately change people's lives. Because in the end, that's why we all do this work. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for organizing. Thank you for rolling up your sleeves. Thank you for standing up, lifting up people's voices, and giving people hope that their better days are in front of them. Thank you so much. Keep up the fight.
Thank you so much, DNC Chair Martin. And now, Lee McGowan, best known as Politics Girl, is a juggernaut among the Democratic influencers. Her mission was to help people reconnect with politics, and boy, has she done so with millions of followers. She is also the author of the great book, A Return to Common Sense. We are thrilled to have her lead us into the next panel. Please welcome Lee McGowan.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love this organization. I love Jason. I love the mission and passion of Field Team 6. I am sure if you are paying attention right now, you are feeling quite overwhelmed. The Trump administration, in their plan to flood the zone with so many terrible things that we can't keep up, is proving to be very effective. And the Republican House passing that absolutely cruel and thoughtless bill last night feels almost too much to take. I understand how hard it is to not find yourself defeated by the bad news, because I feel that too, just immersed in it every single day. Here's what I'll say though. This is not the first time in history that things have been bad. It's not even the first time in recent history that things have been crazy and illiberal and unfair. There has always been cruelty. There has always been unjust laws and behaviors, but now all of us are noticing it, and it feels different. But it's not different. The truth is, a lot of us, I think, really felt like that old MLK quote that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, was true. And we are discovering in real time that that's not always the case, and that feels scary. So there is no doubt that this administration is completely out of control. In some ways, I feel like that could ultimately work in our favor because it will wake people up faster. If this administration had the same plans to strip us of our rights and change our allies and cozy up to dictators and throw us off our healthcare and basically turn us into Project 2025's theocratic fever dream, where these techno billionaires treat us like disposable human capital that they think we are, and we were just slowly but subversively rolling it out, we might be like those frogs in the pot where we didn't really notice until it was too late. But these people have turned up the heat really fast, and people are noticing. Not just people like us who are paying attention to politics and working to get progressive Democrats back in power, but labor unions and farmers and parents and veterans and anyone who counts on Medicaid or SNAP or Meals on Wheels. Frankly, Anyone who thinks sharing war plans on an unsecured group chat is wrong, or that the president getting a $500 million gift from the people who funded 9/11 and Hamas is a problem. The Republicans are genuinely in danger of alienating everyone but their most informed, richest donors and the uninformed diehard supporters. They've put a huge spotlight on their corruption, on their cruelty, on their incompetence. Elon Musk's Doge is a joke that has cost hundreds of thousands of Americans their government jobs and added to the deficit. Doge hasn't even saved us any money. And Elon's star is falling along with the Tesla stock, and he's decided he's going to probably step back. We did that. The people. We made the richest man in the world an unpopular pariah. So we are not as powerless as we feel like we are. The thing is, every conversation we have, every piece of misinformation that we push back on, every call we make to Congress or our local reps, it matters. It matters if we join the marches and the rallies when they happen. We have one with the veterans coming up on June 6th in DC and various places around the country. And we have a huge 50-state No Kings protest on June 14th. We need to go to them. We need to publicly show our displeasure with this administration and our support of the Constitution and the rule of law in our democracy. Excuse me. These people genuinely want to destroy our Constitution. And I think we need to take that really seriously. They want to destroy the Constitution and our rights that come with them. They are already ignoring the court's orders. They are already ignoring the First Amendment to free speech, to dissent, to protest, the Fifth Amendment's right to due process, the 14th Amendment's right to birthright citizenship, and it's completely outrageous. And when outrageous and scary things happen, humans have a tendency to want to step back and hide or not engage. And unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of doing that. Like I said, this is not the first time America has been outrageous and unfair or unjust. The Gilded Age was an absolute nightmare for working people. Their factories could literally burn down with people in it, and the owners would just get new workers and then union bust if they asked for better conditions. How do you think Black Americans felt during Jim Crow, when they were literally being lynched for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time or just fighting for their basic civil rights? American women fought for over 70 years just to get the vote. This administration is currently removing history from our high school classes and our college courses and our museums because they don't want people to know how bad things were and how much we changed them. But they were bad, and people still had the courage to fight back. Think about people like John Lewis on that bridge in Selma, seeing all of those cops on the other side of the bridge and knowing that if they continued with their march, they were going to be arrested and probably beaten, but they did it anyway. That is the history of this country. A small, select group of people wanting everything for themselves, from rights to money, and the rest of us choosing to demand more. I was recently listening to Bruce Springsteen talk about how the America he has always sung about still exists, this land of the free and the home of the brave, but how it's now up to us, the American people, to protect it from the authoritarianism and greed that's threatening to destroy it. I wish we had just won the election in November. I truly do. I mean, hell, maybe we did. But the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is president again, and the people that he has surrounded himself with are willing to torch everything we know and care about for their own continued profit and power, which is why I'm so happy to be here today talking to you on behalf of an organization like Field Team 6. An organization who simply refuses to sit back while terrible things happen and chooses instead to take action. I know everyone on this Zoom today wants to stop the lying and the lawlessness and the chaos that we're seeing. You want to make a difference. You want to make things better. You're just not exactly sure how to do it. Well, I want to tell you that being here today is part of how we do it. Jason always says the solution is as simple as it is powerful. We need to be reaching out to strangers. It is the #1 proven way to open people's minds and win elections. As they say on the Field Team 6 website, we need to track down every good-hearted eligible voter and find them and get them onto the voting rolls where they belong. It is a hopeful, positive, proactive message that actually works. Now, look, I understand that it might feel like Trump gets away with everything, but he doesn't. Justice might feel unbearably slow, but the wheels are turning. Yes, 2 of our Supreme Court justices are undeniably bought and paid for, which is a travesty. But I think the attacks this administration has leveled on the judiciary might just blow up in their faces. Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She is clearly not happy, and that means something. I think we can see now that even with the majority sentiment of the nation, we can still lose. And Republicans are taking this opportunity while they have the majority to do everything possible to never lose again, from undermining federal voter protections to passing voter suppression laws to trying to make it harder for women or minorities to vote with things like the SAFE Act. And it makes you wonder if we'll ever really have fair elections again. But that is exactly why we need to stay engaged. We need better leadership, and we are not getting that without the full participation of the citizens. We need to be dominating the public sentiment and stopping these people from perverting our democracy for their own benefit. So I need you to go out and talk to your people. Talk about the Republicans' terrible budget that trades healthcare and food assistance for tax cuts for the ultra-rich. This tax bill that will literally kill our fellow Americans so that people like Jeff Bezos can have another yacht. Talk to them about the hateful and terrifying immigration roundups run by a Secretary of Homeland Security that doesn't even know what habeas corpus is, and a government that doesn't think we all deserve the right to due process. Talk to your friends and family about the American taxpayer paying to import white supremacists from South Africa, or pay Ashley Babbitt's family $5 million for breaking into our Capitol and trying to kill our lawmakers. Tell them about that terrifying meetup of the world's most corrupt leaders and tech billionaires in Saudi Arabia. Or even tell them a personal story of someone you know who has lost their job or their freedoms due to the Republican Party. Because what is happening right now is terrible, but not everyone knows it. So tell them. I mean, as it turns out, I really don't like that quote, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice," because I've always found it rather trite. Historically, it might be true, but the expression itself is incredibly fatalist. It implies that if we just wait long enough, the right thing will happen, which takes the onus off us to actually do anything. When the truth is, the moral and just thing never just happens. Change only occurs when a concentrated and concerted effort is focused on making change or pushing the moral universe in the right direction. The reason the arc of the moral universe has always bent towards justice is because people, often the very people marginalized and held back by society, put their blood, sweat, and tears into bending it that way. And it takes a long time because not everyone is helping. Because there are people who fight against justice for their own privilege, because there are people who are lazy or entitled or clueless, or because it doesn't affect them and they think it'll just work themselves out. But things don't just work themselves out. People work things out. If we want the arc of the moral universe to bend towards justice, we can't just wait for that to happen. It is a train that we get on and it's not a train that we get on. It's a track that we build. If we want to end up in a place that is just and fair, where people are judged based on who they are rather than what they are, if our worth is based on what we offer society, not what society has offered us, if we want to live in a world where we're respected for our character and not our skin color or our bank accounts, then we're going to have to put in the work. We can't just assume that things will all turn out okay. We have to ensure it all turns out okay. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, takes the pressure off us to actually seek justice. Because good doesn't always triumph. You have to fight for good. You have to put pressure on things to bend, because right now, sometimes it feels that the only people really putting pressure are those who would take us away from justice. So we have to push back with such a counter pressure that we don't have to live with their immorality. We have to build the track, or we have to go where these people are taking us. The choice is ours. We just need to decide what we're going to do. At the end of the day, this is our country, and there are still leaders and groups like Field Team 6 out here working to make things better, and it's our job to help them. So thank you so much for listening and caring enough about this country to be here. Something good can come out of the ashes of this horrendous regime, but only if we collectively demand it. So let's get as many people as possible on board for a safer, fairer, kinder America, the kind of America our children deserve. Because I don't know about you, but I can't take much more of this. Thank you so much. And I hope you will give today to this wonderful, wonderful organization.
Thank you, Lee. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's going to want to watch the recording of that after the fact, because like usual, packed with pectin. That's Politics Girl. Thank you. You are literally the best. Okay, I'm sure you all know the super talented Bryan Tyler Cohen as the YouTube celebrity who has taken the world by storm with more than 4.4 million subscribers and more than 3.67 billion views. That's with a B. He is the host of the podcast No Lie with Bryan Cohen, as well as the author of Shameless, Republicans' Deliberate Dysfunction and the Battle to Preserve Democracy. We are thrilled to call him our friend and to have him here with us today. Welcome, Bryan.
Thank you, Dale. I appreciate it. Thank you to the whole Field Team 6 team who I've worked with for years and years. You guys are the best. And to everybody who's taking time out of their busy schedules today to be here, it means a lot. And this kind of participation matters. Also, Lee, per usual, crushes it. So, okay. So I'm very glad to be here, especially because I get to interview Simon Rosenberg of the Hopium Chronicles and formerly of New Democrat Network. Simon is a lifelong Democratic strategist, author, and bridge between the grassroots and the party. In our current battle against fascism, I'm very grateful for Simon's trademark hope and optimism, which may strike you as being in short supply today. So, Simon, thank you so much for being here.
Bryan, it's great to be with you.
Very excited to dive in. So I want to ask first and foremost, how do you see what message do you derive from the recent spate of not just election wins that we're seeing in special elections across the country, but even in the international community? I mean, we have watched as Trump-aligned candidates in Canada, in Australia, and even in Romania have lost elections in their home countries. And so what do you pull out of this moment that we're in right now that might signal something positive for the future?
Well, and let me just thank Dale and Jason and the entire Field Team 6 crew, right, who just do such amazing work. And I don't ever want to follow Lee McGowan ever again, I think. I mean, how amazing was that, right? That was one of the greatest pitches I've ever heard. So she's amazing. And it's great to be here with you, Bryan. Thanks for your incredible work. Yeah, listen, I think that, I think one of the things I've been writing about a lot recently is how much that we recognize, as much as we feel defeated and beaten and struggling with this, this right-wing regime we have here in the US, that in many elections here in the US recently and also abroad, we've been beating the fascists, right? I mean, we had good elections here in the US in 2018, 2020, 2022, 2023, early 24. We did well down ballot. We didn't win the presidential race. I'm not sugarcoating this at all. But, in North Carolina and other states down ballot, we did well in this election. And then abroad, right, we beat, the fascists failed in Europe, in the UK, and in France in 2024. And then, as you pointed out, just this year, we've seen them fail again in 5 major elections that really matter. So, liberalism, I think, is proving to be a little bit more resilient and powerful than we perhaps they all hoped in their battle to end the liberal international order and to defeat us here at home. And I do think we are proving to be more resilient here too, right? Not just the election victories, but the victories in the courts. Donald Trump has had a lot of losing. I mean, I know it doesn't always feel that way, but they're getting their asses kicked in the courts. They've been losing elections. His poll numbers have come way down. He's a weakened figure from where he was. And so I do think that where I sit, to your point, there is a case that liberalism has proven to be more resilient and powerful and strong than they had hoped. And we have to use that sense of victory and progress to keep building on it in the future.
Let's talk about something that I've been especially focused on, and that is that the argument that usually consumes the left is where you lie in the political spectrum, whether you are progressive or moderate, and the intra-party feuds are usually what dominate what dominate the conversation, what dominate the narrative on the left. I mean, Dems in disarray didn't come from nothing. I would assume moving forward, or I would hope moving forward, that the focus would be less on progressive versus moderate and more about whether you are focused on effectiveness, whether you're going to get into office and actually fight and be willing to deliver, because there is this overwhelming sense of fecklessness and impotence, weakness within the Democratic Party. And so I'm curious from your vantage, you have consistently emphasized that Democrats need to go on offense rather than playing defense, something that I deeply believe in. And so what does that look like in your opinion?
Well, I think, oh man, you just put so much on the table there, Bryan. There's a lot there. And let me try to hit a few things in order. So one is I do think that we have to really resist factionalization. I think that the great dream of MAGA is for us to split. And then I think that we have to learn how to anticipate disappointment in other people in our movement and to not be freaked by it and to recognize that we either hang together or hang separately. And I've used that old line, and that we need to work very hard to stay together and to anticipate disappointment. And what I mean by that is that, yes, there are things that my friends, people that I've worked with, that I've known for decades, have done in recent months that I have disappointed me. I don't dwell on it, right? I try to keep this train moving forward and us, tackling new challenges every day, and to not use the energy I have to beat up on Democrats, but to stay focused on what the real problem is, which is them, right? And I don't think we really have the luxury for these inter-party wars. We can have debates, discussions, but it can't descend into fighting and factionalism. Second, and at least we have to try really hard, right? Second is that, I think that in terms of the other thing, I think that is we're getting set up for, and we get set up a lot by both people on our side and the other side, is, well, you have to do more than oppose. You have to be for something. But by fighting against this economic agenda, this ruinous economic agenda, and saying we don't believe in plutocracy, we don't believe in shifting the tax burden from wealthy people to middle class, we don't believe in cutting programs and dismantling the healthcare system in the United States, we are communicating our values and what we believe to voters. When we say that we believe in democracy and in habeas corpus and not shipping people to foreign gulags, right? And we believe in democracy, we're conveying something powerful about who we are. If we say that we're not for conceding the Ukrainian war to Vladimir Putin with getting nothing in return, we're communicating something about who we are. And I think that we should not be shamed or intimidated by some to not believe that in our opposition to what's happening now, we're not conveying something powerful about what we believe and who we are. So I do think the first offense is really attacking them back as hard as we can right now and being as loud as possible to make it clear that we disapprove with what they're doing, and we make the case why. I think that your point, the final point I'll make, is that one of the things we have to meditate on a lot as Democrats is this concept of strength and weakness. Donald Trump sees the world in a very kind of simple way. You're strong, you're weak, right? You're powerful, you're not powerful. You are winning or losing. And, we sometimes don't really see the world that way. We see it in issues and we see it in values. We also have to see it in strength and weakness. We have to be strong and resolute and committed. And I think that if you look at the polling, right, part of the reason that our poll numbers are a little bit down is that Democrats themselves, not independents and Republicans, Democrats are disappointed in the strength of our response to Trump. And I think there's good reason to be, by the way. We clearly got off slowly as Democrats in this early days. I think we're making tremendous progress, led by Cory Booker and Chris Van Hollen and by others, many of the people here today who are working really hard. But I do think this concept of strength and resoluteness and the willingness to fight has to become better understood in our family as a way of evaluating the way that voters look at us. Voters don't only assess politicians and political parties based on issues. They assess them in other ways too. And one of them is the willingness to fight, the toughness to govern, all those things that I think has to become a higher priority for us in the coming months.
I completely agree with this idea that it does say something about our agenda, what we're fighting for, even fighting to preserve in the face of Republican efforts to undo some of this stuff. But when you look at what Donald Trump has done and what he's promised his supporters, it feels like it's outside of the confines of what we're usually talking about. Like, the things that he's saying are not just, okay, we usually talk about higher taxes or lower taxes, and he's like, let's just bring lower taxes. That's within the confines of our usual political discourse. He was like, forget about what the Department of Education can do. Let's just eliminate the Department of Education. Like he was able, to his credit, and that doesn't, I'm not dishing out credit to this guy often, but to his credit, he was able to think outside of the confines of the usual political discourse. And so, on what issues do you think Democrats can do that? Where can we think outside of the box beyond just the obvious stuff and the important stuff? It's not to undermine it's not to downplay the significance of protecting democracy. It's not to downplay the significance of expanding voting rights and passing HR1 and protecting reproductive freedom and expanding access to healthcare. All of those things obviously are important, but again, those come within the confines of our usual political discourse. What issues do you think Democrats could focus on that would make it feel like we're focused on something bigger, that we have imaginations and can give Americans something really to hold on to as we look out at a population that's largely lost their faith in the ability of our political parties to dream big?
Oh, what a great question. You've been good. You're good at this, by the way. I guess you've done this a few times, and these are great questions you're asking
And by the
today.
way, like you don't need to, if you don't have an answer, that's okay.
No,
Because you're
no,
also
no,
not
I
running,
do.
You're not running for office.
No, no,
So,
I
like,
I want to answer. I think you're stretching me here a little bit, and I appreciate that. Right?
by the time this is over, you'll be ready to announce your candidacy.
You're putting on a good show for Dale and the team, right? For Dale and Jason, everybody. Look, I think we obviously have to compete in the arena that matters to voters, like on the economy and on the dismantling of our healthcare system and the attacks on Medicaid, Medicare. But I do think that one area that I hope that we can tap into is to go into a deep reservoir of patriotism and love of country. I think that, to me, the Democratic Convention in 2024, I've been working full time in Democratic politics for over 30 years. And to me, the Democratic Convention this time was the best convention that I went to, because I felt that that week, our ideology was patriotism and love of country. It wasn't progressive or moderate. It wasn't all these things you were bringing up earlier. I felt there was this deep, passionate love of America that came through in that week. And I don't think that that continued during the rest of the campaign. I think the campaign came out of the convention and actually got a little bit smaller instead of getting a little bit bigger. And I do think that where to complement the work that we're doing in combating Trump and fighting on the issues that matter to voters, right? I think that we've got to find a higher gear on issue of patriotism and defending America and democracy here and abroad. I think this has to become, there really is no understanding, I think, that I have about what it looks like on the other side of this that doesn't involve a rebirth of freedom in America and this sort of greater appreciation of the brilliance of the founding fathers and the historic mission of the United States to be this inspiration for liberty and freedom for the people of the world. I think we're going to have to go back into that in some new way. I don't think it's going to be about doing it the way we did before. And I think, Bryan, something you mentioned that I just want to iterate is that I do think a lot of this is going to be about reinvention, reimagination. It's not going to be going back and restoring things. It's going to be about reimagining them and building new things together. And that's actually what makes this period really exciting. As dangerous, as terrifying as it is every day, we also are going to go build a new thing together, because the old thing just isn't there anymore. It didn't work. It was insufficient for the moment that we're in. And I think that's where you're headed with this question, which is, what are the big new things that we have to do that we haven't really thought about? And to me, in addition to sort of the traditional issue space, we've got to find this, this deep kind of center left, patriotism. We don't ape what they've done on their side, and we have to do it on our own terms. And it's why in the Hopium community, one of the things we talk about a lot is we need to own the 4th this year. And what I mean by that is that July 4th should be an unhappy holiday for Donald Trump, because it's a day that we celebrate the severing of ties to a mad king. And it should be a day that we celebrate not just through hot dogs and parades and fireworks, but about the core reason that that day even existed, which was to build a new political system that didn't involve control of oligarchs and mad kings over all of us. If there was ever a time that we needed to reinvent and get connected to the original meaning and purpose of the 4th, it needs to be this year. July 4th should be a painful holiday for Donald Trump, and we have the power to make it so.
Well, that was beautifully put. And I want to build on that a little bit, because when we're thinking about the Democrats moving forward into this new era and what we can do and what changes we could see, the members themselves are obviously a big part of that. And we have seen, to some small degree, at least at least a conversation surrounding the idea of generational change. Granted, we've seen some members opt to, or members or senators opt to retire, and hopefully that that does signal some broader shift. We've also seen the situation with Jerry Connolly, and that's a
Yep.
situation that befalls the Democratic Party far too often, where folks do stay in office really until they pass away. I mean, we've seen it happen from the days of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I'm sure before that, on to now. And so I'm just curious what your thoughts are
Yeah.
on this broader idea of generational change. To what degree you think Joe Biden's decision to run for re-election and subsequent decision to drop out, how that all plays into this idea of whether we will actually take seriously the idea of generational change, and to what extent that matters.
The day after the election, I had two sort of initial observations, right, that I felt. One was that we had failed to collectively, society, the Democratic Party, the campaign, to adequately indict Trump and explain to the American people the threat that he represented. But the other one is that I said it's clearly time for the generational wheel to turn much faster. And I think we should view that concept both in terms of the age of politicians and the age of ideas. I don't think it's just about the age of people. It's also about the willingness to think anew and to reimagine and to go forward, which is something that's independent of age, right? It's about attitude, and it's about recognizing that we had a thing that was there, but we need to now go build this next thing, as you are describing. And I think we have to proceed on both fronts. There's no question that the issue of, you know, the unwillingness of politicians past the point where they should have retired is a significant issue in the Democratic Party, right? This is not something that we should avoid. This is an area that we must discuss. I want to just shout out to Nancy Pelosi for having the incredible leadership capacity to have orchestrated a transition, a very successful transition. That was a model for the way that we need to be operating going forward. And it's not just, again, about the age of the person. It's also the age of their ideas that we should be evaluating, and whether or not they seem equipped to be able to navigate the new political terrain that we are involved in. I mean, when I started Hopium a little more than 2 years ago, I said the central reason I was founding it is that I felt that Democrats in Washington really didn't understand the nature of the battle that we were in today, that we were sort of operating off of an old playbook and an old battlefield, when things had been fundamentally altered by Elon Musk and Donald Trump and by this new right here and around the world, and Vladimir Putin's support of all this. So I do think that this is a good conversation. It's a necessary conversation. And, it's why I love David Hogg, and I also am frustrated with him. I mean, I'm going to say, both of those things simultaneously, but we need to be challenging ourselves to raise our game and be better. And I think that we shouldn't duck this conversation. We have to lean into it. On Joe Biden, it's now clear that he shouldn't have run for reelection. But that is water under the bridge now, right? But with the learning here, as you pointed out, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Dianne Feinstein, right? Joe Biden, is that our leaders need to be responsible and recognize the stakes here are unbelievable, and we need to encourage them to continue to do the right thing for the country and not just for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly put. And also, look, this affords some. This also helps their own legacy, because the last thing that you want to be known for is what I think a lot of people will look at. Have talked about Joe Biden being known for. And I was just listening. I forgot what show I was listening to today, but it was some folks saying that what Biden will be remembered for is the end of his presidency and making way for Trump. And you don't want to be in a position where, after such a monumentally successful presidency, and I would maintain that I don't know how much more successful it could have been,
Right.
with the addition of 14 million jobs, a 50-year low unemployment rate, record high stock market, the strongest economic recovery in the world, the CHIPS Act, the PACT Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law, all of those things. And so you want these elected officials to know that when you go out, the last thing that folks aren't going to see, the lasting image in their mind, is not that you made way for somebody to undo your own legacy by virtue of having stayed too long. But I think you
I'm-
put it perfectly. Go ahead.
Look at how Nancy has also had
Exactly.
an afterlife, right?
Right.
I mean, she's still in the game and she's still adding, I went to a North Carolina Democratic Party major fundraiser last year, and Nancy was the keynote speaker, and she was working without a script. She was working with notes, and it was one of the most amazing political speeches I'd ever heard. And she's older than Joe Biden. I mean, or she's around Joe Biden's age,
Yeah.
right? And so I do think that you're right. I mean, this is a healthy conversation.
And
Yeah,
Bernie
and
as well is you can see the way when he's doing his tour, his Stop Oligarchy tour,
yeah.
he's got AOC in tow, and clearly there's some sense of he's looking to pass the baton, but making space for the next generation of leadership, which is, by the way, not to say that Bernie isn't at his prime. I mean, Bernie at the age he's at right now is as effective as anybody else at 40 years
But this
younger.
gets to my point, right? It's not
Right.
just the age of the person, it's the age of their ideas, right? And I think that we have to be nimble and agile enough to understand that it's, that yes, somebody like Bernie can continue to make enormous contributions because he's looking forward and not backwards, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it is, I think that, we all had a line, sitting here, it's been a great conversation about so much of our thrust forward has to be about winning the future, about winning the future for America, for our party, for our politics and for the American people. And I think that one of the things I'm in the room, this room that I'm in is my oldest son's room. He's 24 years old. I've got 3 Gen Z kids. And, I often talk about what really motivates me more than anything else is that I feel that Donald Trump is stealing the future of our kids and our grandkids. And I think that Nancy Pelosi always said, I'm in this for the children. She has this line. We've all heard her say it a million times, right?
Yeah.
I'm in this for the children. And I think that however we get there, our focus, we can't be subject to our own nostalgia, because nostalgia is a brake on progress. And we've got to be now, I think, as we build this next thing together, all of us together, have to be relentlessly focused about winning the future.
Simon, as always, it is a pleasure talking to you. Your optimism is infectious and so important at a moment like this, and highly recommend for everybody who's watching right now, if you're looking to support Simon's work, you can sign up for his Substack, which is the Hopium Chronicles. So hopiumchronicles.com, HOPIUM chronicles.com. Simon, it's always great to follow your work. I've been following you for years, and I look forward to seeing how your career continues to grow.
Back at you, brother. I mean, just thank you for all that you're doing. You're making a big difference.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We're going to drop the links to Simon's socials in the chat right now. So if you'd like to follow Simon, please go ahead and do that. And immodestly would suggest that if you would like to follow me on YouTube, we'll throw those links in the chat as well. So again, Simon, thank you. Field Team 6, thank you so much for hosting this. This is having these events right now, like this one right now, is monumentally important. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to have a great conversation with Simon. And I will pass it over to Dale.
Bryan, thank you so much. Thank you, Simon. It's great to see both of you. Obviously, we could have gone another 45 minutes with each of you easily. But we have an embarrassment of riches, which I can't complain about because it's Reps Jamie Raskin and Sarah McBride coming up, and all hosted by Billy Ray. So I'm going to throw this over to Jason to do that introduction, but thank you both. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That was
Thanks,
great.
everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Bryan. Thank you, Simon. It really is it's thrilling and a huge privilege to have luminaries like both of you on.